So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with RokoM and Michele. And this week, again, we're pulling forward from, the podcast from Jim Britt, because there's so much in there to unpack. It's around the power in moving forward. And so I want to kick us off with a quote. Roko and I have been talking about what it means and what it doesn't mean and the things that we want you to walk away with, but we'll start with a quote first. It says, "When I reach the place of my dreams, I will thank my failures and tears. They too kept me going." And so what we want people to walk away with, right, as part of it is whether you succeed or whether you fail, if you have a destination in mind, your only option is to keep moving forward. Okay. You got to keep moving regardless of what it is, because otherwise you just get stuck in what this place is. And you're not gonna reach your full potential. You're not gonna achieve what you want to achieve. And I think Jim talked about that too. It's like we all are a product of our experiences and what we've gone through. And I'm going to weave in the letting go part now, right? So you do need to let go to be able to move forward, right? Drop the anchor, and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so while you were talking about in the quote, acknowledging the fears and the tears that helped you keep going, one of the traits, the fifth trait, I think, was the willingness to endure pain, right? And sometimes when we think, I'm going to do this new thing, or I'm going to change this part in my career, my, personal life, or whatever it is, we just have this euphoria that it's all going to be easy and good. But the reality is change is hard, and building the muscles and the habits to make it stick are even harder and sometimes painful. So, enduring that to the point of my fears and my tears got me there. I mean, that's the part that was sticking with me in that quote, but it doesn't stop you. You don't let it stop you from moving forward.
So I want to call something out, because I'm sure anyone listening right now has said, who the frick ever thinks that we've got euphoria that when we start on this new path, there's not going to be any pain? What? No one ever said that or thought
Come
that.
on, there's someone out there that says that.
No. What I think is they do anticipate all the change and the bumps and all the pain, and so they just don't go forward, right? So, I just had to call that out, because if anyone's saying anything, what is she, nuts?
Once the decision is made, a lot of times, in business, we've seen it happen. They made a decision to make a change, and then they're like, well, why haven't you been able to do it? Because they didn't anticipate that there'd be all this hard stuff that has to happen.
Well, or the commitment's wavering, or the decision was open.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a decision. It was just stuck in desire, right?
Right.
The decision's a commitment. But it's I think what you and I talked about too is there are things that happen that are pretty significant that can anchor us in the past. And if we don't let them go, we're not able to keep moving forward to whatever we aspire to be, to whatever that dream is, to whatever that goal is. And so there's so much power in that, because then you also open yourself up to the new experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll pull from the positive intelligence, but then also what Jim mentioned too. And it was about being observant in your life, not just present, but really being observant about your actions, how you're showing up, because that is part of how you keep moving forward, right? And we've talked about this in our previous episodes too, with the power of reflection. When you take a moment to think about, what am I doing that's holding me back? What am I doing that's, showing progress towards my destination? It's in those moments that you can motivate yourself or have an awareness or an aha moment that allows you to focus again on what you really want to do and how you're going to get there. And so it's having that observation of what you're doing.
Well, and yes, what came to mind for me when you were talking was also around the failure or, and I'm going to, because you and I talked and you're like, there is no failure, there is no success. It's all that, don't let it define you, right? Because
I think that's the key.
Seems so final. Because people may wrap their brain around just the word failure. Failure is just like this, defeated, I can't do it, I'm not worthy. There's a lot in that word.
Yeah.
That if we label it, and I think you and I talked about their learning moments, right? And so
it's having that scientific mind. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
You are fine, Roko. I've done it to you plenty of times.
I'm so excited, right? You touched a nerve.
You're like, yes, and I can add to this conversation right now.
I've got to say that thing. It goes back to that scientific thinking, that mindset of a scientist, right? Because a scientist doesn't think in terms of failure or a success. They just think in terms of learning, right? So whether the experiment flops, it disproves, or proves what the hypothesis is, there's learning that happens. And it's that learning that allow you to move forward in your thinking. And so, again, that was one of the moments for me around science.
I go to one of the quotes that we ran across. Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work, something along those lines. And it really is that mindset of, what did I learn? What are you going to do differently as a result of it? But I think the power of moving forward is the fact that you don't give yourself the choice to stop.
Right.
Just keep going. It doesn't define you. It's not a roadblock unless for some reason you decide to stop.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then it's not going anywhere.
Right. That's right.
So you're more than welcome to interrupt again. But I mean, it's just, I think there's so much there when you just think about, and it almost feels like a duh moment. We got to keep going in the direction that we're headed, or at least where our dreams and what we aspire to be. But I think there's so many times, Roko, that people and myself too, when stuff just seems overwhelming, you just want to sit down and just not do it anymore, not keep trudging through whatever you're trudging through, but the next great thing could be in the next step that you take forward.
Right. That's right. So, I mean, I know we also talked about part of moving forward is facing our fears, right? A lot of times when we've had something happen in our life, it creates that experience, and it often pops up and shows up as a fear sometimes as we approach new things that might change, or, where we are comfortable with. And so part of facing those fears is stepping into the uncomfortable zone, and addressing, like, what was it that was so powerful that created that experience that makes me think this way? And is it the truth in this situation?
Well,
and how do I?
Yes. And I go back to what when we were talking, Jim talking about, when he got up in front of, 30 people, he was scared to death to do public speaking in front of people. And so if you think about the power in him moving forward, had he opted in that moment, and I can come from the same place, if you opt in that moment to go, I am never doing that again. I'm never going to go through that again. I'm never experiencing it again. That's nothing that I want to do. Well, you don't give yourself the chance to grow, right? And he wouldn't have, where would he be today? Where would we wouldn't be on a podcast right now, right, if I had just stuck where, it's like, okay, I'm not comfortable in front of people. I can't do this. I'm just going to go do something else, but you stop moving forward to that thing that you want to do. And I just think there's so much power in, if you keep moving forward, you're committing to yourself to get better. You're committing to yourself to prove that, yes, it can, instead of it's just not possible.
Right. Right. And it's that willing to endure, and endure being the key word, the pain of change, right? Because when you first start doing something, it is uncomfortable
Mhm.
and there is pain associated with it. But if you keep doing it, you will get better at it.
Well, if you keep doing it with someone helping you on
With
nuances of what
intention.
it was, I mean, because you just
With
said that, I'm going to say no.
Well,
because
you know,
he did 10 people a day for a year and he didn't get better at it. It was all no's. I think that the key is around moving forward is figure out what you need so that as you move forward, you don't have the same results. Because for him to do that for a year is like, it proves he's super tenacious. But, you know, I mean, he could have kept on that same way and had failures the rest of the time. So I think the whole thing about moving forward is what is that incremental improvement, or what lessons learned are you going to incorporate? Don't stop.
right.
But you know, the definition of insanity is to do
the same
results. So
Yeah.
I think you need to incorporate the learning aspect of it into
Yes, definitely.
Don't give up.
Yes.
It's a moment in time.
Right.
So anyway, I enjoy unpacking this stuff, and I think it's so critical, just the trust in yourself and commitment to what that decision is, that there's power in moving forward so that you can see it through to the end.
Yeah.
So what one or two things, I know with you, there could be two.
There could be two.
There could be two that you want people to walk away with on the power of moving forward, the power in moving forward.
So I'm going to use something that you said earlier. I think it was towards the beginning of our episode today. And that is, if you have a destination in mind, moving forward is really the only option.
I agree with that. And I said that, huh?
You said that. Okay, that's the new quote.
That's the new quote. I have my own quote.
Michele Smith.
And the quote from me, and I've used this other one before, is face your fears and do it anyway, right? And so I think power in moving forward, one of those things that we have to do is face those fears. Yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, it's not something you want to do it again. But the reality of it is that what lies ahead in that forward direction is your dream.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let it go.
Don't let it go.
Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Like Frozen, let it go. So anyway, this week, thank you for joining us. RokoM Michele, Leadership Soundbites. Please, and every single time I have to visualize, like, share, and subscribe. We want to hear from you. We appreciate comments and sharing. And until next time, enjoy your day.
Bye-bye.